Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I've got a story for you today that's going to make you seriously reconsider every piece of smart tech in your home. This one comes from a viewer, and honestly, it's one of the most unsettling things I've ever read. So, turn down the lights, get comfortable, and let's dive into a story that proves you're never really alone. Our story starts in Boise, Idaho. A woman, let's call her Sarah, lives by herself in a quiet suburban house. Like many of us, she has a smart home security camera set up in her living room. It's one of those things you buy for peace of mind, right? You set it up, you check it a few times, and then you pretty much forget it's there. Sarah was the same. She'd installed the camera months ago, but had never actually activated the motion detection feature. She figured she didn't need it. It was a safe neighborhood, and she lived a quiet life. She was wrong. It was a Tuesday night, just like any other. Sarah went through her usual routine: dinner, a bit of TV, and then scrolling on her phone in bed, until she started to drift off. The house was completely silent except for the low hum of the refrigerator. She finally put her phone on the nightstand and closed her eyes, ready for a good night's sleep. But just as she was about to fall into a deep sleep, her phone buzzed. It wasn't a text or a call, it was a notification. The time was 2:14 a.m. She groggily picked up the phone, her eyes struggling to focus on the bright screen. The notification was from her security camera app. It read in bold letters, "Motion detected in living room." Her heart started to pound. Motion detected. That was impossible. First of all, she lived alone. There was no one else in the house, no pets, nothing. Second, and this is the part that really chilled her to the bone, she had never, ever turned that feature on. She was meticulous about her privacy and tech settings. She knew for a fact that the motion detection was disabled. Her first thought was that the app had glitched. Maybe a software update had reset the settings. It was the only logical explanation she could grasp onto in that moment of confusion and rising fear. With a trembling finger, she tapped the notification. The app opened, and a live feed of her living room appeared on the screen. The room was dark, illuminated only by the faint moonlight filtering through the blinds. Everything looked normal. The sofa, the coffee table, the TV, all exactly where she'd left them. She let out a shaky breath, a small sigh of relief. It must have been a false alarm, a bug in the system. She was about to close the app and try to go back to sleep, but then she noticed something strange. The camera view was moving. It wasn't a jerky or random movement. It was slow, smooth, and deliberate. The camera, which was positioned on a bookshelf, began to pan across the room. It was as if it were tracking something, following an invisible path. It moved from the empty armchair, across the rug, and then stopped, focusing intently on the dark, gaping entryway to the hallway that led to her bedroom. Sarah's blood ran cold. The camera wasn't just panning randomly. It was behaving as if it was following someone walking through her living room. But there was no one there. The space was empty. The silence in her house suddenly felt heavy, suffocating. She stared at the screen, her knuckles white as she gripped her phone. She couldn't look away. The camera held its position, aimed at the hallway, for what felt like an eternity. The stillness was more terrifying than any movement. It was a waiting game, and she had no idea what she was waiting for. And then, just as she thought her heart might beat out of her chest, another notification popped up at the top of her screen. It slid down over the live feed, and the words on it made her stomach drop. The notification read, "User recognized, user recognized." What did that even mean? She was the only user registered to the account, and she was in her bedroom holding her phone. She wasn't in the living room. Who or what had the camera just recognized? Her mind was racing, trying to make sense of the nonsensical. Had her account been hacked? Was someone messing with her? But that didn't explain the slow, deliberate tracking movement. That felt different. That felt intelligent. Before she could even process the full implication of user recognized, the camera on the live feed started to move again. This time, it wasn't panning. It was tilting. Slowly, unnervingly, the camera began to tilt upwards. It tilted past the hallway entrance, up the wall, across the ceiling. And then it started tilting down, 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 until the perspective was completely inverted. It was pointing back into the room, but from a high angle, as if it were looking down from the ceiling. And then it kept going. The view spun, and for a disorienting second, she saw her bookshelf upside down. The camera was rotating on its base, turning completely around. It was turning to face the other way. It was turning to face the hallway, to face her bedroom. Sarah was frozen in her bed, watching this impossible event unfold on her phone screen. She was standing in her bedroom doorway now, too scared to stay in bed, too scared to run. She just stood there, phone in hand, watching the live feed. The camera completed its 180-degree turn. The feed now showed the hallway, and at the end of the hallway, her own bedroom door, which was slightly ajar, and there she was. She could see herself on the screen, a grainy figure standing in the sliver of light from her room, illuminated by the phone in her hand. But she wasn't the focus of the camera. The lens was aimed just slightly above her head, into the darkness of her bedroom behind her. And that's when she saw it. On the screen, in the grainy night vision feed, something was standing directly behind her. It was tall, so tall its head was out of the frame, a thin skeletal frame draped in what looked like dark tattered cloth. It was perfectly still, a statue of pure nightmare fuel. And as she watched, paralyzed with a terror she had never known, the camera feed did one final, horrifying thing. It zoomed in. The view pushed past her image on the screen, focusing on the dark space just behind her shoulder. The image became clearer, less grainy. The camera's digital zoom was surprisingly good, and she saw a face, a pale, gaunt face that didn't seem to belong to anything human. It was long and narrow with sunken dark pits for eyes, and it was smiling, a wide, unnatural smile that stretched too far across its face, revealing rows of small needle-like teeth. It was smiling right at the camera, right at her. At that exact moment, as she stared at the smiling monstrosity standing inches behind her in her own room, a final notification appeared on her phone. It was a single line of text from the camera app, a message that shattered her reality and confirmed her deepest, most primal fears. The message simply said, "You left it on for us." The story ends there. She didn't tell me what happened next, how she got out, or if she even did. The thought that this entity, this us, had been there all along, just waiting, watching in the dark, and that the technology she bought for safety was actually their window into her world. It's a level of horror that's hard to shake. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? When you turn off your devices, are they really off, or are you just leaving them on for someone else? Be careful out there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe.